The cargo ship Terran Wanderer moved slowly through the dark space of the Kepler void. Captain Sarah Chen sat in her command chair, watching the stars on her screen. The ship looked old and tired, like many human cargo vessels that carried supplies between the colonies. Its hull was scratched and dented from years of use. The engines hummed quietly, pushing the ship forward at a steady pace. Chen was a woman in her 40s with short brown hair and calm eyes. She wore a simple blue uniform that looked worn but clean. Around her, the bridge was small and cramped. 5 other crew members worked at their stations checking systems and monitoring space around them. "Captain," said Lieutenant Torres from the communications station, "we're getting close to the danger zone. This is where the pirates like to hunt." Chen nodded. "Keep scanning." "We knew this might happen when we took this route." The Kepler void was empty space between star systems. Most ships avoided it because alien pirates used it as their hunting ground, but it was also the fastest way to reach the outer colonies. Many cargo ships tried to sneak through quickly and quietly. The Wanderer carried agricultural supplies in its cargo hold. At least that's what the shipping papers said. The containers were marked with labels for farming equipment, seeds, and fertilizer. Nothing valuable enough to interest pirates, or so it seemed. "Contact on sensors," called out Petty Officer Kim from the scanning station. "Multiple ships coming in fast." Chen looked at her main screen. 12 red dots appeared, moving toward them like hungry wolves. The ships were much larger than the Wanderer. Their weapons were already powered up and ready to fire. "Vrikari pirates," whispered Torres. "A whole fleet of them." The Vrikari were a race of large lizard-like aliens. They stood over 7 feet tall with thick scales and sharp claws. They were known throughout the galaxy as brutal pirates who showed no mercy. They captured cargo, destroyed ships, and sold prisoners as slaves. "They're hailing us, Captain," Torres reported. "Put them on screen," Chen said. She kept her voice steady, but her hands gripped the arms of her chair. The main screen flickered, then showed the bridge of the lead Vrikari ship. War Chieftain Thexmore filled most of the screen. He was massive even for his species. His scales were dark green with scars from many battles. His yellow eyes glowed with hunger and cruelty. "Human vessel," Thexmore spoke in rough galactic standard, his voice like grinding rocks. "You will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. Surrender your cargo and crew and we might let some of you live." Behind him, other Vrikari pirates laughed and made threatening gestures. They showed their sharp teeth and claws, enjoying the fear they thought they were creating. Chen stood up slowly. She made her voice shake a little, like she was scared. "Please, we're just carrying farm supplies. Nothing valuable. We're not worth your time." Thexmore's laugh was like a roar. "All human ships are worth our time. Your species is new to space. Weak, soft, you make good slaves, and your technology brings good prices." "Sir," one of Thexmore's crew reported, "scans show the human ship has minimal weapons, just basic defensive systems. Their engines are old and slow. They cannot escape." Thexmore nodded with satisfaction. "Perfect. Launch boarding pods. Take the ship intact. I want to examine their cargo personally." Chen appeared to panic. "Wait, maybe we can make a deal. We have some credits, some trade goods. Please don't hurt my crew." "Too late for deals, human," Thexmore snarled. "You should have stayed in your own little corner of space." The screen went dark. Around the Wanderer, the Vrikari ships moved into attack formation. They were like a pack of predators surrounding wounded prey, their weapons locked onto the human ship, ready to disable it if it tried to run. "Boarding pods launching," reported Kim. 6 of them coming in fast. Chen looked around at her crew. They all seemed calm now, not scared like before. Torres cracked his knuckles. Kim checked her sidearm. The others prepared their stations with practiced movements. "Captain," asked Ensign Jackson from the weapons station, "should we continue the act?" Chen smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a hunter who had been hiding, waiting for the perfect moment. "No, Ensign. I think it's time we showed our guests what human hospitality really means." She walked to her command console and placed her hand on a hidden scanner. The scanner read her fingerprints and DNA in seconds. Then it waited for her voice. "This is Commander Sarah Chen, Earth Defense Force Special Operations. Authorization code Omega 77 Alpha. Execute Protocol Omega." The ship around them began to change. What had looked like an old cargo vessel started to transform. Hidden panels slid open along the hull. Weapons that had been concealed behind false plating emerged and powered up. The tired engine suddenly roared with new power. "All stations weapons free," Chen commanded. "Show them what happens when you threaten humans." The cargo containers attached to the ship's hull began to detach. But they weren't falling away randomly. Each container opened like a metal flower, revealing sleek military drones inside. Dozens of them powered up their engines and weapons systems. On the Vakari ships, alarms started screaming. Thexmore stared at his sensors in disbelief. The weak human cargo ship had just become a military vessel bristling with weapons. The containers he thought held farm equipment were launching fighter drones that his sensors said were more advanced than anything in Vakari space. "Impossible," Thexmore growled. "Human ships are weak. Their military is small and primitive." His weapons officer looked up from his station, fear in his yellow eyes. "Sir, their weapons are powering up. Energy readings are off the scale. Those aren't farming supplies." The first wave of Vakari boarding pods was already too close to turn back. They hit the Wanderer's hull and tried to burn through with their cutting lasers. But the hull that had looked old and weak was actually advanced military armor. The cutting beams barely scratched it. Then the point defense systems activated. Hidden gun ports opened all over the ship's surface. Rapid-fire plasma cannons began shooting at the boarding pods with perfect accuracy. The alien pods exploded one by one, their crews dying before they knew what hit them. "Boarding pods destroyed," reported Jackson with grim satisfaction. "All 6 eliminated." Chen opened a channel to the Vakari fleet. When Thexmore's face appeared on screen again, his confident smile was gone. Now he looked worried and confused. "War Chieftain Thexmore," Chen said politely. "Allow me to properly introduce myself. I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. This is a military supply mission, not a cargo run. You just attacked a human military vessel." "That's impossible," Thexmore snarled, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "Intelligence reports say humans are weak. No real military, no advanced weapons." Chen's smile grew wider and more dangerous. "Your intelligence is about to be updated. You wanted to meet humanity, Thexmore. You wanted to test our strength. Well, here we are." The human drones spread out around the Vakari fleet like a swarm of angry hornets. Their weapons locked onto the alien ships. The Wanderer itself turned to face the enemy, no longer pretending to be helpless. "Last chance," Chen said. "Surrender now and some of you might live to warn others about what happens when you threaten humans." Thexmore roared in rage and fear. "All ships, attack! Destroy them." Chen sighed and shook her head. Wrong answer. The battle began with a flash of light that lit up the dark void. Thexmore's flagship opened fire first, sending streams of red energy beams toward the human ship. The other Vakari vessels followed, filling space with deadly fire. But the Terran Wanderer was no longer the helpless cargo ship it had pretended to be. Advanced shields flickered to life around its hull, absorbing the enemy fire. The energy that got through hit armor plating that was stronger than anything the Vakari had seen before. "Shields holding at 90%, reported Torres. "Their weapons aren't even scratching us." Chen watched her tactical display with calm eyes. "Return fire. Let's show them how Earth builds weapons." The Wanderer's main gun spoke for the first time. Twin beams of white-hot plasma lanced out across space, each one carrying more energy than a small star. They hit the nearest Vakari ship dead center, and the alien vessel's shields collapsed instantly. The plasma beams burned through the ship's hull like it was made of paper. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as critical systems overloaded. Within seconds, the Vakari ship was a drifting wreck with no life signs. "One down," said Jackson with grim satisfaction. Around the battlefield, the human drones went to work. Each drone was only the size of a fighter craft, but they were packed with technology that the aliens couldn't understand. They moved faster than Vakari ships could track, dodging enemy fire with impossible grace. The drones didn't just attack randomly. They worked together like a pack of wolves, coordinating their strikes through quantum communications that updated thousands of times per second. When one drone painted a target with its sensors, every other drone in range knew exactly where to shoot. A group of 5 drones surrounded a Vakari cruiser. They attacked from different angles at the exact same moment, their plasma cannons all firing at once. The cruiser's shields couldn't handle that much coordinated fire. They collapsed, and the drone's next volley tore through the ship's engines and weapons. "Human vessels." Thexmore's voice crackled over the communications channel. "Your drones fight like they're alive. What kind of AI do you use?" Chen smiled coldly. The kind that learned warfare from 10,000 years of human conflict. The kind that knows how predators think. She was telling the truth. The drone's artificial intelligence wasn't just programmed with tactics and strategies. It had been trained using every human war in recorded history. It understood concepts that most alien minds couldn't grasp. Ambush tactics, psychological warfare, and the art of making your enemy afraid. The AI also understood something else that made aliens uncomfortable. It knew that sometimes the best way to win a fight was to make it so terrible that your enemies would never want to fight you again. 2 more Vakari ships exploded as the drones found weak points in their armor. The aliens had built their vessels for intimidation, with lots of spikes and scary decorations. But all those spikes created weak spots that human sensors could detect and exploit. "Sir," one of Thexmore's officers reported, his voice shaking, "we've lost 3 ships already. Their weapons are burning through our hulls like they're not even there." Thexmore snarled in frustration. "How hot do those plasma beams burn?" His science officer checked his readings and went pale. "Sir, they're burning at nearly 40 million degrees. That's hotter than the core of our home star." The war chieftain felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Fear. The Vakari were used to fighting prey species who ran away or fought with simple weapons. These humans were different. They didn't run, and their weapons were beyond anything in Vakari technology. "All ships focus fire on their drones," Thexmore ordered. "If we can destroy their fighter support, we can overwhelm the main ship." It was a good plan in theory. In practice, it was like trying to swat flies with a hammer while the flies were shooting back with cannons. The human drones were too fast and too smart to be caught by Vakari weapons. One drone led 3 Vakari fighters on a chase through the debris of their destroyed ships. The aliens thought they were gaining on it, firing everything they had. But the drone was leading them straight toward the Wanderer's main guns. "Target acquired," reported Jackson. 3 bogies in perfect formation. "Fire," Chen ordered. 1 plasma beam from the main gun vaporized all 3 Vakari fighters at once. The drone that had led them there performed a victory roll before rejoining the battle. Commander Chen watched the tactical display and made her plans. She had fought pirates before in other systems and other wars. They all made the same mistake. They thought numbers and size were more important than skill and technology. "Torres, open a channel to all Vakari ships," she ordered. "Channel open." "Commander, this is Commander Chen," she announced. "To all Vakari vessels, you have 30 seconds to surrender. After that, I will consider you enemy combatants and destroy you without mercy." Thexmore's face appeared on screen again. His scales had turned a darker color, which Chen knew meant he was angry and afraid. "We are Vakari warriors. We do not surrender to prey species." "Then you've made your choice," Chen replied calmly. "All units weapons-free. No survivors." What happened next would be talked about in bars and spaceports across the galaxy for years to come. The human drones stopped playing with their targets and went for killing shots. The Wanderer activated all of its hidden weapon systems at once. Missile tubes opened along the ship's hull, launching smart torpedoes that could think and adapt faster than any Vakari pilot. Each torpedo picked its own target and attacked from the angle that would do the most damage. The ship's point defense systems, designed to shoot down incoming missiles, turned their attention to Vakari fighter craft. The rapid-fire plasma cannons tracked and destroyed enemy fighters so fast that the aliens barely had time to scream. But the most terrifying moment came when Chen decided to show the aliens what human engineering could really do. She ordered all power to be diverted to the main engines. "Ramming speed," she announced calmly. The Wanderer shot forward like a bullet, its reinforced hull aimed directly at a Vakari heavy cruiser. The alien ship tried to get out of the way, but human ships were faster than they looked. The collision sent shockwaves through both vessels. The Vakari cruiser cracked in half, its hull no match for military-grade human armor. The Wanderer shook from the impact but kept flying, barely damaged. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Torres. "Damage control teams are on the way." "Acceptable losses," Chen replied. She looked at her tactical display. 8 Vakari ships were destroyed. 3 more were crippled and drifting. Only Thexmore's flagship was still fighting, but it was heavily damaged. The war chieftain's face appeared on screen one last time. His proud expression was gone, replaced by the look of a broken warrior. "What are you?" he whispered. Chen stood up and looked directly at him. "We're humans," she said simply. We're the species that climbed to the top of the food chain on a planet where everything wanted to kill us. We're the species that learned to hunt in packs and never give up. She paused, letting her words sink in. And we're the species that just arrived in your neighborhood. The silence that followed Chen's words was broken only by the crackling of damaged systems on Thexmore's ship. The war chieftain stared at the human commander through the view screen, trying to understand what had just happened to his fleet. Impossible, he whispered. We had 12 ships, 12. Chen looked at her tactical display. The numbers told the story clearly. 11 Vakari vessels were either destroyed or so damaged they couldn't fight anymore. Only Thexmore's flagship remained, and it was leaking atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. Your ships were big, Chen said calmly. But big doesn't mean good. Your weapons were flashy, but flashy doesn't mean effective. You came here expecting to hunt prey, but you found predators instead. Around the Wanderer, the human drones continued their patrol patterns. They moved like sharks in the water, circling the damaged Vakari ship and waiting for orders to finish it off. Their weapons remained locked on target, ready to fire at the first sign of hostility. Lieutenant Torres looked up from his communication station. Commander, we're intercepting Vakari emergency transmissions. Thexmore's crew is trying to call for help. Are they getting through? Chen asked. Some of the signals are making it past our jamming, but the nearest Vakari fleet is at least 6 hours away. Chen nodded thoughtfully. This was both good news and bad news. Good because it meant they had time to complete their mission. Bad because it meant their secret was about to get out. The mission had been classified at the highest levels. Earth's military was quietly establishing supply caches and forward bases throughout the galaxy, preparing for the day when humanity would need to defend itself against larger alien powers. The Wanderer was supposed to look like a harmless cargo ship, so that no one would suspect what they were really doing. Now that cover was blown. Within hours, every alien government in this sector would know that humans had military ships operating in their territory. Some would see it as a threat. Others would see it as an opportunity to test human strength for themselves. Commander, said Ensign Kim from the scanning station, I'm detecting survivors on some of the Vakari ships. Should we attempt rescue operations? Chen considered this for a moment. The human way was to help survivors, even enemy survivors. But these weren't ordinary enemies. These were pirates who had attacked cargo ships, murdered civilians, and sold prisoners as slaves. Scan the wreckage for evidence of their crimes, she ordered. Check for slave cages, stolen cargo, anything that proves what they've been doing. Kim's fingers flew over her controls as she directed the ship's sensors toward the drifting Vakari hulks. What she found made her face go pale. Commander, Kim reported quietly. Ship 3 has modified cargo holds with life support, designed for holding prisoners. Ship 7 has human personal effects in its trophy room. And Ship 9, she paused, looking sick. Ship 9 has what looks like a slave auction database. Thousands of entries. Chen felt her jaw tighten. She had suspected as much, but seeing the proof made her angry. These pirates hadn't just been attacking ships for cargo. They had been hunting people. Any survivors from those 3 ships? She asked. Yes, Commander. About 40 Vakari total. Leave them, Chen said coldly. They chose their path when they decided to prey on innocent people. Let them face the consequences. Torres looked uncomfortable. Commander, that's not very human of us. Chen turned to face him. What's human, Lieutenant, is protecting our people and making sure monsters like these can't hurt anyone else. Sometimes being human means making hard choices. She opened a channel to Thexmore's ship again. The war chieftain looked even worse than before. His scales had turned almost black with fear and rage. War chieftain, Chen said formally, I'm giving you one chance to survive this encounter. Your ship will power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. My people will examine your computers and cargo holds. If we find evidence that you've been involved in slavery or piracy, you and your crew will be executed immediately. Thexmore's eyes blazed with fury. You cannot judge us by your weak human morals. We are warriors. We take what we want from those too weak to stop us. And how did that work out for you today? Chen asked mildly. The alien warrior had no answer for that. Around him, his surviving crew members looked terrified. They had followed Thexmore because he seemed strong and successful. Now their leader had led them into a battle they couldn't win against enemies they didn't understand. You have 60 seconds to decide, Chen continued. Surrender and cooperate or join your friends in the void. Thexmore looked around his damaged bridge. Half his crew was dead or wounded. His ship was falling apart around him. His weapons were either destroyed or too damaged to fire, but his pride wouldn't let him surrender to what he still saw as inferior beings. "We are Verkari," he roared. "We will never bow to humans." He reached for his emergency destruct button, planning to take his ship and crew with him rather than surrender. But his weapons officer, a younger Verkari named Kethvar, grabbed his arm. "No, War Chieftain," Kethvar said urgently. "Some of us want to live. Some of us have families." Thexmore snarled and threw the younger alien across the bridge. "Coward! Weakling!" "I should have spaced you long ago." But other crew members were nodding in agreement with Kethvar. They had seen what human weapons could do. They had watched their fleet die in minutes. They didn't want to be heroes. They just wanted to survive. "Time's up," Chen announced. She gestured to Jackson at the weapons station. The Wanderer's main guns powered up again, their targeting systems locked onto Thexmore's bridge. The War Chieftain could see the weapons charging through his view screen. In a few seconds, he and his crew would be vaporized. "Wait!" Kethvar shouted, pushing past Thexmore to reach the communications console. "We surrender." "Don't shoot! We surrender!" Chen held up her hand and Jackson stopped the firing sequence just seconds before the guns would have fired. "Say that again," she ordered. "This is Officer Kethvar of the Verkari ship Bloodhunter," the alien said formally. "We surrender to human forces. We will cooperate with your investigation. Please don't kill us." Thexmore roared in rage and lunged at Kethvar, but two other crew members tackled him and held him down. They had made their choice. They would rather be prisoners than corpses. "Smart decision," Chen said approvingly. "Power down all your systems and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to resist or destroy evidence will result in the immediate destruction of your ship." She closed the communication channel and looked around her bridge. Her crew was watching her with expressions of respect and pride. They had just defeated a superior enemy force without losing a single person. But Chen knew this was just the beginning. Word of this battle would spread throughout the galaxy. Every alien power would want to know more about human military capabilities. Some would be frightened, others would be curious, and a few would see humanity as a threat that needed to be eliminated. "Torres," she ordered, "prepare a message drone for Earth Command. Priority 1 encryption. Tell them the cover is blown and that we need to accelerate the timeline for all operations in this sector." "Yes, Commander." Chen looked out at the wreckage of the Verkari fleet floating in space around them. 12 ships had come hunting for easy prey. Only one would leave, and it would carry survivors who had learned a harsh lesson about underestimating humanity. She smiled grimly. "Let them spread the word. Let every pirate, warlord, and ambitious alien leader in the galaxy know what happened here. Maybe next time they would think twice before threatening a human ship." The hunt was over, and for the first time in this part of space, the humans had been the hunters. 2 hours after the battle ended, boarding teams from the Wanderer were exploring the damaged Verkari flagship. Commander Chen watched their progress from her command chair, studying the data they were sending back. The evidence was worse than she had expected. Kethvar and the surviving Verkari crew were cooperating fully, but what they revealed painted a picture of systematic cruelty that stretched across dozens of star systems. "Commander," reported Sergeant Martinez over the communications link, "you need to see this. We found their main computer core, and it's full of shipping records. They've been selling people like cattle for over 5 years." Chen felt her stomach turn. "How many people, Sergeant?" "Thousands, Commander. Humans, Altarians, even some Zenthian children. The records show sale prices, locations, and—" Martinez paused, clearly disgusted, "and buyer preferences for different species." Lieutenant Torres looked up from his station. "Commander, we also found something else. The Verkari have detailed intelligence files on human shipping routes. They know where our colonies are, what kind of defenses we have, and when our cargo ships travel." This was the worst news yet. Chen had hoped the pirates were just opportunistic raiders who had stumbled across the Wanderer by accident. Instead, they had been systematically studying human operations, planning larger attacks. "How detailed are these files?" Chen asked. "Very detailed, Commander. They have maps of the Tau Ceti trade routes, security schedules for the new Geneva system, and cargo manifests for dozens of our ships." Chen stood up and began pacing the small bridge. The situation was getting more complicated by the minute. This hadn't been a random pirate attack. It had been part of a larger intelligence operation, probably supported by one of the major alien powers. "Torres, send a message to the boarding teams. I want every computer file, every data chip, and every piece of paper on that ship. If they've been spying on us, I want to know who's been helping them. Aye, Commander. On the main screen, Kethvar's face appeared. The young Vrikari officer looked exhausted and frightened, but he was still cooperating with the human investigation. Commander Chen, he said respectfully, I need to tell you something important. Thexmore wasn't working alone. He had contacts in the hegemony military. They were paying him for information about human activities. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. The hegemony was one of the largest alien governments in this part of the galaxy. If they were supporting pirate attacks on human ships, it meant the relationship between their species was worse than Earth's diplomats realized. What kind of contacts? She asked. Intelligence officers, mostly. They would meet with Thexmore every few months and give him new targets. Human ships carrying valuable cargo, colony transports with light escorts, research vessels exploring new systems. Torres looked up from his communication station. Commander, we're getting more signals from the Vrikari survivors. Some of them are asking for asylum. They say they were forced to serve on the pirate ships and want to defect to human space. Chen considered this carefully. Defectors could be valuable sources of information, but they could also be spies or troublemakers. She would have to screen them carefully. Put them in temporary custody aboard the Wanderer, she decided. We'll sort out their stories later. Right now I'm more concerned about those hegemony contacts. A new alarm sounded on the bridge. Ensign Kim looked up from her scanning station with a worried expression. Commander, I'm detecting incoming ships. Multiple contacts approaching fast. Chen felt her heart rate increase. Vrikari reinforcements? No, Commander. The signatures are different. These ships are bigger, more advanced. I think they're hegemony military vessels. The tactical display updated to show 6 large ships approaching their position. Each one was 3 times the size of the Wanderer, bristling with weapons and armor. They would arrive in less than 4 hours. Chen realized immediately what had happened. Thexmore's emergency signals hadn't just reached other Vrikari pirates. They had also alerted his hegemony contacts that their intelligence operation had been discovered. Now the aliens were coming to clean up the mess. They would destroy the evidence, eliminate the witnesses, and probably blame the whole thing on rogue pirates acting without government approval. Torres, recall all boarding teams immediately, Chen ordered, and send another priority message to Earth Command. Tell them we have hegemony military vessels approaching and that we need backup. How long until they arrive? Torres asked. Chen looked at the tactical display. 3 hours, 57 minutes. Not enough time for any Earth ships to reach us. She had to make a decision quickly. The Wanderer was powerful enough to handle pirates. But 6 hegemony warships were a different matter entirely. Even with her advanced weapons and combat drones, she would be outnumbered and outgunned. But running away wasn't really an option either. The ship was still damaged from the battle with the pirates. Their engines were operating at only 70% power, and they had injured crew members who needed medical attention. Commander, said Jackson from the weapons station, what are your orders? Chen looked around at her crew. These were good people, experienced soldiers who trusted her to make the right decisions. They were ready to fight if she asked them to, even against impossible odds. But she also had a responsibility to complete her mission and get them home safely. The intelligence they had gathered from the Vrikari computers was too valuable to lose. Earth Command needed to know about the hegemony's involvement in the pirate attacks. Sergeant Martinez, she called to the boarding team leader, how much more time do you need to finish downloading their computers? At least 2 hours, Commander. There's a lot of data here and some of it is heavily encrypted. Chen made her decision. You have 90 minutes. After that, we're leaving whether you're finished or not. She turned to Torres. Send a message to the Vrikari survivors. Anyone who wants to come with us has 10 minutes to get aboard the Wanderer. After that, we're sealing the airlocks. What about the ones who stay behind? Torres asked. Chen looked at the tactical display again. The hegemony ships were getting closer. They'll have to take their chances with their new allies. The next 90 minutes were the longest of Chen's career. Every few minutes, Kim would update her on the approaching hegemony fleet. The alien ships were pushing their engines hard, clearly eager to reach the battle site before the humans could escape. Meanwhile, Martinez and his boarding team worked frantically to download every piece of useful information from the Vrikari computers. They found shipping schedules, contact lists, payment records, and even video files showing meetings between Thexmore and hegemony intelligence officers. Commander, Martinez reported, We've got enough evidence to prove the hegemony was behind these attacks. Financial records show they paid the pirates over 2 million credits in the last year alone. Excellent work, Sergeant. Now get back to the ship. The last boarding team member sealed the airlock just as the hegemony fleet appeared on long-range sensors, 6 massive warships, each one capable of destroying the Wanderer with a single volley. All stations, prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace, Chen ordered. Maximum power to engines. The ship's jump drive hummed to life, building up the energy needed to tear a hole in space-time. It would take another 3 minutes to charge fully. Commander, Torres reported. The hegemony ships are hailing us. They want us to stop and surrender, Chen smiled grimly. Tell them we're having communication problems. We can't hear them clearly. On the main screen, she could see the lead hegemony ship beginning to power up its weapons. The aliens weren't going to let them escape without a fight. Jump drive charged, reported Kim. Ready to execute. Do it, Chen ordered. Space twisted around the Wanderer as it tore a hole in reality and vanished into hyperspace. Behind them, the hegemony fleet arrived to find only wreckage and a few damaged Vakari survivors. Commander Chen looked around at her crew with pride. They had survived their first real test against alien military forces. More importantly, they had gathered intelligence that would help Earth prepare for the larger conflict that was coming. Set course for Earth, she ordered. It's time to go home and report what we've learned. 3 weeks later, the story of the Terran Wanderer had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In bars and trading posts on military bases and diplomatic stations, beings from dozens of different species whispered about the human ship that had destroyed an entire Vakari pirate fleet. On the hegemony capital world of Zephyr Prime, Admiral Vextar stood before the High Council with his head lowered in shame. The large blue-skinned alien had been in charge of the intelligence operation that used Vakari pirates to spy on human activities. Explain this disaster, demanded Counselor Prime Thelos, her 4 eyes glowing with anger. How did a single human cargo vessel defeat 12 Vakari ships? Admiral Vextar struggled to find the words. The intelligence was wrong, Counselor Prime. The humans are not as weak as we believed. Their technology is more advanced than our analysts predicted. More advanced? Thelos leaned forward on her throne. Vextar, they destroyed ships that were 3 times larger than their own. They used weapons that burned hotter than stars. How could our intelligence be so completely wrong? The Admiral had been asking himself the same question for weeks. The hegemony's spies had reported that humans were a new species with limited military power and primitive technology. Instead, they had found warriors with weapons that could cut through hegemony armor like paper. The humans have been hiding their true capabilities, Vextar admitted. The ship that destroyed the Vakari fleet was disguised as a civilian cargo vessel. We believe they have been conducting secret military operations throughout this sector. Counselor Prime Thelos exchanged worried glances with the other council members. If the humans were secretly building up military forces, it could shift the balance of power in the entire region. What do we know about their current strength? She asked. Very little, Counselor Prime. The survivors from Thexmore's fleet report that the human ship used artificial intelligence systems more advanced than anything we possess. Their weapons technology appears to be at least 50 years ahead of ours. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The hegemony had been planning to gradually take over human space through proxy attacks and political pressure. Now they realized that humanity might be strong enough to fight back. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, War Chieftain Thexmore sat in a dingy cantina on the smuggler's moon of Kestak. His once proud fleet was gone, his reputation was destroyed, and most of his former crew members had abandoned him. The few Vakari who still listened to his stories shook their heads in disbelief when he described the battle. Flying human machines that fought like living creatures, weapons that burned hotter than suns, and a commander who showed no mercy to pirates and slavers. You're making it up, said Captain Rocktar, a scarred veteran who ran supply missions to the outer systems. No single ship could do what you describe. Thexmore's eyes blazed with the memory of his humiliation. I was there, Rocktar. I saw my fleet burn. The humans aren't the weak prey species we thought they were. They're predators, and we walked right into their trap. Word of his defeat had spread through the pirate networks faster than hyperspace travel. Now every smuggler, raider, and criminal organization in 3 sectors knew to avoid ships with human markings. The humans had gained something more valuable than any weapon: a reputation for being dangerous. On Earth, Commander Chen sat in Admiral Hayes' office at Earth Defense Force headquarters. The walls were covered with star charts and tactical displays showing the locations of human colonies and military bases. The evidence she had brought back from the Vakari computers was spread across a large table. "This changes everything," Admiral Hayes said quietly. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes, but Chen could see the warrior underneath. "The hegemony has been planning to attack our colonies for months." Chen nodded. "The payment records show they've been funding pirate attacks throughout the frontier zone. They were using the pirates to test our defenses and gather intelligence about our military capabilities." Admiral Hayes picked up a data pad showing shipping schedules that had been stolen from Earth databases. "They know too much about our operations. We'll have to change all of our routes and security protocols." "There's more, Admiral," Chen continued. "The Vakari defectors we brought back have been very cooperative. They've provided names, locations, and details about dozens of other pirate groups that are working for alien governments." The Admiral leaned back in his chair, considering the implications. For years, Earth's leaders had hoped to avoid major conflicts with the alien powers. They had believed that humanity could find its place in the galaxy through trade and diplomacy. Now they knew that some aliens saw humanity as nothing more than easy targets to be conquered or enslaved. The time for hoping and believing was over. It was time to prepare for war. "What's the status of our expansion program?" Hayes asked. "Accelerated as you ordered. We have supply bases under construction in 12 systems, and 3 new battle groups are being formed. The colonies are being equipped with better defenses, and our intelligence network is gathering information about alien military capabilities." Hayes nodded with satisfaction. "Good. What about the Wanderer? Is she ready for another mission?" Chen smiled. "Repairs are complete, and the crew is eager to get back out there. We've also upgraded our weapons and added more combat drones. If we run into trouble again, we'll be ready for it." The Admiral stood up and walked to the large window that looked out over the shipyards of Luna Base. Dozens of warships were under construction, their hulls gleaming in the light of Earth's sun. Each one was bigger and more powerful than the Wanderer, designed specifically for the war that everyone now knew was coming. "The galaxy thought we were weak," Hayes said quietly. "They thought they could push us around, steal from us, enslave our people. They were wrong." He turned back to Chen with a determined expression. "Your mission showed them what humans are really capable of. Now every alien power knows that we're not easy prey. Some of them will think twice before threatening us. Others will see us as a threat that needs to be eliminated." Chen stood up and saluted. "We'll be ready for them, Admiral." As she left the Admiral's office, Chen thought about her crew and the challenges ahead. The Wanderer had won one battle, but there would be many more to come. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of predators who saw humanity as competition or prey. But humans had survived on a world where everything wanted to kill them. They had learned to hunt in packs, to adapt to any environment, and to never give up when their survival was at stake. Those same skills that had made them the dominant species on Earth would serve them well among the stars. In cantinas and command centers across the galaxy, the story of the Terran Wanderer continued to spread. Some aliens told it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of underestimating new species. Others told it as a horror story about human ruthlessness and advanced technology. But in human space, it was told as something else entirely, a promise that humanity would not go quietly into the darkness, that they would fight for their right to exist among the stars, no matter how many enemies stood in their way. The galaxy had wanted to test humanity's strength. They had sent pirates and spies expecting to find easy victims. Instead, they had awakened something that had been sleeping in human DNA for thousands of years, the instinct of the apex predator. Now they would learn why humans had fought their way to the top of the food chain on one of the most dangerous worlds in the galaxy, and why, when cornered or threatened, they became the most dangerous hunters the universe had ever seen. The age of human expansion among the stars had begun, and for the first time in galactic history, the prey had become the predators.